Hey, what's up, losers? Gabe DeArmond here. Jarod Hamilton going to join us in just a second on PowerMizzou Live for Wednesday, September 14th, maybe somewhere around there. I don't know. It's Wednesday. We're live. We're talking Missouri football. We're going to get to it shortly. Invite you guys to any comments you have, questions you have. Look, I know there are comments. Like, I have read nothing but comments for 3 days. So I know there are comments, but feel free to put them in the comments section. We will certainly get to them and address your comments, questions, thoughts, feelings, whatever, in the second half of the show after we kind of air all of our grievances about this week in Missouri football. Before we get to that, somebody you will have few grievances with. I've talked with him. He's a good guy, James Carlton at James Carlton State Farm in St. Louis, Missouri. He wants to take care of all your insurance needs. If you give him a call, his information is going to run across the bottom of the screen for the vast majority of the show. 314-961-4800. The phone number, carltoninsurance.net. The website address. If you get in touch with him, you mentioned that you heard about him on PowerMizzou. He's going to donate $20 to Advancing Missouri Athletes, Mizzou's NIL Collective. And he's also hopefully going to save you a little bit of money on your insurance. The one guarantee, you will talk to a human being. It won't be an automated system. You have to hit 25 buttons to talk to someone. James or one of his team is going to answer the phone, and they're going to take care of you. So if your insurance costs a leg and an arm, get in touch with James Carlton State Farm. So, Jarod, we're just here to talk to all the losers, man. Tell them what's going on with Mizzou football, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty epic quote when he said it. Like instantly, I was just like,
Thought, like what went through my head is what goes through my head every time I hear a coach say something that lost a game or that's losing some games. It's like, I know what he's saying, and he's not wrong, but it's not going to go over really well with the fan base.
Yeah, anytime. Even if he said that after they won, if he said that after they barely lost or in a blowout, there would have just been no time. There would just been an angle for people to be like, why is he doing that? So yeah, I'm same place you are with it.
Well, and the other one that has gotten a lot of feedback, I tweeted out during the press conference. He said, I don't have any issues with what we're doing on offense schematically, which means he likes his system. He believes in his offense. And so everybody is jumping on that and saying, how can you have no issues with the offense that just did what it did at Kansas State, which just goes to prove, again, you lose a game, or if you're struggling, whatever you say is going to be wrong. I mean, there's nothing he could have said coming out of that game that everybody's going to go, oh yeah, I get it. That makes sense.
No, losing, as we said, 40-6. We know it's 40-12, but 40-6. I mean, there was nothing, like you said, there's nothing good or bad that he could have said. He could have tried to did an inspirational speech right there after the game. People would have been like, this is bull crap. He could have pooped on everybody, and everybody would have been like, what are you doing? Like, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the game happened, and there's nothing to take it away. It is sunny here in Columbia, so the sun still rises. They're still playing a game this weekend. We're not going to talk about that game really at all. I mean, look, here's I want you guys to know how dedicated Jarod is to doing a good job. You have watched highlights of Abilene Christian football. That is that's something, man.
I did. I mean, usually, first off, let me start off when I do my previews or the notebooks. I don't think I'm an expert at X's and O's. I just take what I've learned from podcasts or what I watch and see, and I'll try to tell you what I know. So I did watch some highlights for ACU versus Lamar in their season opener, and then watch some highlights versus Prairie View A&M last week. So I guess later in the show I can tell you what I've learned from those guys. But yeah, dedication, Gabe. I'm out here.
They here's what I know about Abilene Christian. Their mascot is the Wildcats. They wear purple. So little PTSD from last week. Also, their quarterback is named Maverick, which I respect. I like that. That's it. That's all I know.
Cool,
yeah, that's my knowledge. So we'll break them down later. I mean, we won't, but we'll say we will. But in all seriousness, this is the weirdest week of the season because we were talking before we started and before we hit the live button. I mean, what could we see this weekend that you would go, oh yeah, that's a good sign? I mean, really the only things you can see are things that you're going to go, oh, that's not very good. But we were talking, I mean, this is the week you come out and just whatever you can do to make Brady Cook in that passing game look good, whatever you can do to get Luther Burden 15 touches, I think you do it all.
Yeah, you do all of it. And a perfect analogy I was thinking to myself is this game is the equivalent to when you're in school or when you're a kid in school and you get a good grade on a test or something like that and you expect a reward. Your parents are not going to reward you for doing what you're supposed to do. Now,
Right.
if you fail, then there's a problem. So if they win by 50 points, I mean, Mazel tov. That's what's supposed to happen. They lose or it's too close, then we have a problem. So, like what you said, they should try to make Brady Cook look like the second coming of Tom Brady, how they were when they announced him as quarterback, the number 12 thing, let Brady Cook, all that stuff. That's what should happen, and give Luther all the touches he wants this week.
Well, and if this is a test, it's like the times table test, but the hardest one on there is like 4x4. Right? Like you don't have to mess with, what's that?
I thought it was 6x6.
But I mean, you don't have to mess with like that 12x9 or something like that. That's a little too tough for this week. This week, 6x6. Yeah, that's about the toughest question you're going to face. So, I think the best thing to do is people have questions, people have thoughts, all that. So let's jump into that, and we'll get back to some stuff later. But Jake says biggest position of concern, is it quarterback or offensive line? I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Quarterback or offensive line? I say it's offensive line because I mean they can't do anything. The running backs can't do nothing. The quarterback can't do nothing. The receivers can't get their touches. Like it starts with them, and everybody forgets about the offensive line until it's a problem. And now that we all are recognizing the offensive line, that's how you know it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in the sense that if the offensive line's a problem, everything else is also a problem, and it doesn't matter what you have. But with this team specifically, I think offensive line is a problem. I think quarterback's a problem. I think tight end's a problem. And honestly, I'm not sure running back's not a problem. I mean, it might not be. They might be all right. But I just haven't seen anything that indicates to me that Missouri is above average at any position except maybe wide receiver. And wide receiver is so reliant on everything else to work that, like, I don't care who you are at wide receiver. If the line's not good and the quarterback's not good, it does not matter.
Correct. I think running back, that's still to be determined. I think more so my thing on the running back is as far as who Drinkwitz wants to put out there. I like to see him just make this more about Nate Pete. And instead of like last week, I think Schrader had 6 carries for 19 yards. I mean, they switched, how many carries they got from game 1 to game 2. But I would like Pete to have more of a load, see more consistency. But we're not going to, like you said, we're not going to see nothing until that offensive line shows that it can hold up.
Yeah, and running back and really all positions, because I've talked a lot about how, like, we're not seeing these young guys and these big recruits and all that on the field that much. I mean, Luther was the only freshman that played and all that. I think football coaches are risk averse, right? If they have a choice between a young guy that has a lot of potential, but he hasn't been there, versus an older guy that the ceiling might be limited, but he's been out there before, they're going to usually go with the older guy. And I think there's a little bit of that going on with Drinkwitz. Like, he's bringing in these transfers and he's playing some of these returning guys. And I'm not saying the young guys are necessarily better, but when it's 40-6, I don't think they can be worse. And I wouldn't mind finding out.
You're right about that. And something I was thinking about is just, he was conservative a lot last year. And he mentioned, I forgot if it was after the game or if it was this yesterday. It may have been yesterday when he noted, like, I try to open up the playbook, turn the ball over too much. And so they're like, we're seeing more and more, like, he's without saying it, he's kind of saying in some spots, I don't know if I got the guys. So I'm trying to piece things together and stitch it up how I can to make it work. That's what it feels like to me.
But here's what, because I think fans say open up the playbook and that automatically means 40 and 50-yard passes.
No.
That's not what it has to be. I mean, you can't convince me they don't have the guys to consistently run crossing patterns and 6-yard outs. I mean, just do that. Get them something that settles Cook in a little bit, that gets the ball in the hands of Lovett and Burden, and maybe they break a tackle. Maybe, I mean, just some short passes. It doesn't have to be, throwing. I'm not looking for the St. Louis Rams' greatest show on turf. I'm just looking for complete some passes, get the ball in the hands of the guys that can do something with it.
Yeah, and then to add to that, like their short yardage situations, it's horrible. It's so predictable. You know what's going to happen based on the formation. When they get into those single back pistol, type of thing, it's a running back, run up the middle, and it's so obvious. And with a line that can't get no push, I mean, it's not really going to work. So I just like maybe on the 4th and short or 3rd and short plays that they start doing those passes, like you said, those drag routes, things of that nature, and get spark plays that way. Like you said, they could break a tackle or make a person miss. We seen Nate Pete do it in the first game. I mean, it was La Tech, but they can do that. So instead of trying to throw the ball, which hasn't been working, try things the other way.
Kyle says Drink has shown in the first 2 games that he has no faith in Cook. If he doesn't have faith in him after 3 years in the system, when will he? And I got to say, man, like we've talked about that at both games. I kind of agree. He looks like he's calling plays for a quarterback that he doesn't really believe in. I mean, that's just what it's looked like to me watching the game.
It looks like in the first half they were really conservative versus K-State, and then after they gave up they did that 3rd and 13 QB draw. It was no one did this, but it felt like
that was a give up. That was a give up.
It felt like that type of moment, and then they gave up the punt return. And then, so you saw at a halftime, like that was the best drive of the game, that first possession after halftime. But it didn't feel like he was doing that because it's like, here, Brady, do this. It was like, we really don't have any other chance. So you're seeing Brady airing the ball out, but it's not something he wants to do from the onset of the game.
And I mean, I think it's a fair question. If you don't trust the kid now, I mean, you at some point you just have to. I mean, he's your starting quarterback, and whether he's the best quarterback in the country or not, he's the guy you've got, and he's the guy you've picked, and you got to put some faith in him. So we've got like 3 or 4 questions along these lines, and Colby wants to know: does Sam Horn get any time this week?
He should.
He should. If he doesn't play this week, I'm comfortable saying he just isn't going to play this year. Right. I mean, anybody that doesn't play in this game is redshirting. There's zero question about that.
I mean, in my mind, I feel like that was already going to be the case. I mean, just because not only we've got Cook, but just because he hasn't shown the signs that he's ready to play. I mean, Jack Abraham, we don't know how, after Jack Abraham playing, maybe he can play his way up to second string now, because after that performance, I don't know. But we've never thought that he was going to get significant snaps or be the second string anyway.
Yeah, and I will say I talked to a couple people this weekend who are, I'll just say, closer, or talk to people who are closer to the situation than I am. And what I've been told is, look, Sam's not ready. And if that's the case, hey, I get it. You're not going to play a kid that isn't ready. I don't think this week is really the litmus test. I think the litmus test, again, is what happens if they come back from Florida and they're sitting 2-4. Because at that point, to me, I don't care if he's ready or not. Like, I got to do something to put butts in seats next year, and that's all I can do. Because at 2-4, the people who aren't already checked out are going to be checked out. Javon says, I think you really know what is going on with Elijah Young. He is clearly the fastest back. At worst, he should be number 2. Now, I want to say my favorite questions always start out with what is really going on with. Like, we don't really try to hide things from you guys. Like, it's not good business to just say, I know stuff you guys don't know. You know, that I'm trying to sell subscriptions here. I'm trying to put my kid through college. We like to share what we can share. But look, I agree. I mean, I've said since the middle of last year that I thought Elijah Young should get more carries than he does. But for the second straight game, he had 2 or 3 carries in the first half, and I don't think ever saw the field in the second half.
Yeah, well, the running backs as a whole did terrible. I think Pete had 10 carries or 13 carries for 10 yards. Schrader had 6 carries for 19 yards, and I think
now you do have to throw Nate's negative 14-yard carry in there.
Did have a negative 15-yard carry on there, but I think Elijah Young had 2 carries for 3 yards. I mean, again, this is part of the offensive line, but I don't know. We couldn't tell you why he's not getting more snaps than Schrader, if not just getting more snaps in general, like 2. And then what do you have in week 1? 3 maybe?
I think he had 3 in the first week for I can't remember how many, 35 yards or something like that.
Which is solid, but yeah, I could not tell you why.
Yeah, I agree. And look, at some point, you know, if that continues, we will certainly ask about Elijah Young. It didn't really seem appropriate after the last game because there were much bigger fish to fry than why Elijah Young only had 2 carries. But I mean, I agree. You know, I feel like he should probably be getting more. KM says, given what we've seen from Cook and Abraham, how bad can a former Elite 11 quarterback in Macon look in practice that we've already jumped to expecting Horn to get time on Saturday and not make it? And all I can say, guys, is Tyler's been here for a year and a half, and I don't really hear any indication that, hey, they feel like he's ready to go out there and play. I mean, he played at Georgia last year. He got the start, which was weird because if you're around this program, nobody leading up to that game thought Tyler Macon was going to get the start. And then all of a sudden he did. But there's got to be a reason. I mean, it's not Eli Drinkwitz wants to risk his $4 million a year job by keeping this guy who's really, really good on the sidelines, right? There's obviously things that, and we don't get to see practice, but whatever they see from him in practice obviously doesn't indicate to them they should put him on the field. And I don't know what that is, but I don't know how much simpler to put it.
Yeah, you said it all.
Yeah, I mean, he just, I don't know. Look, who knows? Maybe he starts on Saturday. I mean, I'd be surprised, but whatever. We'll see where it goes.
That would not be a good business move. That would not be a good.
But I mean, my point is, though, I can't remember another time where I've heard cries for the backup, but I've never really heard cries for the third and maybe fourth string guy. I mean, Jarod, we haven't seen a lot of practice, but the stuff we've been able to see, it looks to me like Tyler Macon's running the scout team, and Sam Horn would probably go in a game before he would. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just the way it's appeared by kind of looking to me.
Yeah, from the 20, 30 minutes we get to see a practice, every time we see him, he's not typically running with the first or second team or even third team like that often. So we couldn't really say what he's doing. It looks like he is running, the practice squad.
Yeah. Cam Klauser says it's 1 game out of 12. It was a game most realistic fans predicted a loss, and it looked horrible. It was the snowball effect getting out of control onto the next one. And there's room for both sides of this. Yes, it's 1 game. But man, it was really bad. To me, it wasn't that they lost. It was that they looked like they didn't belong on the same field.
Yeah, I counted this as probably going to be a loss, but because of how, they got beat in everything, coaching, offense, defense, special team, everything. Mm-hmm. And even when they had the extra delay, the timeouts at the end, they still didn't convert that last play of the game to Burden until there was another penalty out there. So, I mean, you can say that, but I've never really felt before this weekend that I know that was 1 loss, but that sure felt like 2.
Yeah. And That's really the key, is not to let it turn into two, and not this week. I don't think it's a big word, but like the rational side still has to say, at the beginning of the year, we said they need to win K-State or Auburn, right?
Right.
I mean, they can still win Auburn. So if they go win Auburn, okay, we're good. You're back on track. It just puts a whole lot of pressure on that Auburn game.
Yeah, this game was going to be an indicator of how that matchup would have went.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I think the mistake we so often make is thinking, hey, the way a team looks one week is how it'll look next week. I mean, App State just gave up 63 points to North Carolina and then went to College Station and gave up 14. So weird things happen in college football. Last week is only like this huge alarm bell if they do it again. Like if that's their worst performance of the season, they might be okay. But if we see anything approaching that again, they're probably not okay.
Right.
I think what it did is probably lower the floor for me. DK 1979 says, do you think Mookie Cooper is non-existent for any particular reason? He definitely has the least touches and targets. I mean, this is Mookie's third year in college, and it needs to happen pretty soon if it's going to happen. My impression of him is, if you're his size, you have to have like elite speed. And I think maybe he has good speed, but not elite speed. Just that's my judgment.
That sounds about right. But I just, again, and I hate to keep harping back on it, but for me, it's so hard to really judge too many players offensively when the offensive line is the reason why things, not just in the pass game, but in the run game, no one can really show what they can do because no one's got time to throw the ball or, get through the holes.
Well, like even that jet sweep they ran to Cooper, like I don't know that that's his fault. I don't know where he's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Keep rolling through here. Okay. Josh says, what is more true? Eli Drinkwitz will get a pass because he doesn't have a capable QB, or Eli Drinkwitz gets blamed because he failed to recruit a transfer. I mean, I don't see a lot of people giving him a pass this week.
Doesn't have a capable QB. I don't know.
I think in year 3, if you don't have a capable QB, that's 100% your fault.
That is
because,
but it's not like he didn't try though. He tried, and
he tried.
He got beat out by bigger schools, or whatever more favorable situations or whatever. So it's not that he only tried once or twice. He was looking out there and he just couldn't get it. And now it's kind of a reflection. We're seeing like, all right, he was trying to prevent some of the things that happened on Saturday.
And the one that still doesn't make sense to me is Gary Bohannon going to South Florida. I mean, look, I understand. I mean, from everything I've heard, they lost JT Daniels to West Virginia for NIL purposes. Jaden Daniels went to LSU. Look, it's LSU. That's understandable, right? But Gary Bohannon to South Florida is the one that I don't really know what the reason is. But here's the other thing. This ties into, we were talking about Tyler Macon earlier. I mean, Tyler Macon was the guy he took in that recruiting class. That was his first choice of quarterbacks in the 2021 recruiting class. And he apparently can't see the field. So that's why are they in this situation? Yeah, part of it's because Connor Bazelak left and whatever the reason was for that. But part of it's also because, I don't know, I guess at this point, you're pretty close to saying he missed on Tyler Macon. And that's on him. That's not on Barry Odom. That's not on anybody else. That's on Drinkwitz. So, let's see. Okay, Scott Jarrett says, in the clip of Drink saying teams come together, did that remind you of Barry Odom in year 2 after the Purdue loss? So I'll give you, Jarod, I'll give you the background here too. It was not after the Purdue loss. It was year 3 of Odom. I think it was year 3. Could have been year 2, but it was year 2 because they lost 5 straight. And the 5th straight loss in that streak was to Auburn. And I mean, they got blown off the field. And Barry Odom just like his press conference was just this like 15-minute rant about like how, it doesn't matter what anybody outside the building thinks. And, I don't care what the third string left tackle from Rockbridge High School puts on Twitter. And then he burned the playbook later that week. And it was craziness. And Eli was a little bit more controlled than that, certainly yesterday. But I can see what, like, it's like we started off talking, like, you're just never going to win making a comment that even can be construed as going at the fans, right? And I don't think Eli was going at the fans, but I think some people are taking it that way.
But the people who are taking it that way, is that not who he's talking about?
Fair. Yeah. I don't think he's talking about the people that are buying tickets that went to Manhattan and spent their whole day. I mean, I think he's telling his kids, don't get on Twitter because you got some crazy dudes on Twitter that are going to at you with some vile stuff. And I've seen it. Like, it's out there. It happened. And it's not just Missouri. It happens in every fan base. I'm not blaming any Missouri fans, but I don't know. I've heard from a lot of people that read that quote or saw that clip yesterday and said, that's kind of the first sign of a coach that's starting to kind of tailspin a little bit. And I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot of people are taking it that way.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we like we said, we understand why he said it and who it really was directed towards, but we're professionals. We can kind of decipher these things.
Right.
And not use emotion as much. So
right. When you take emotion out of it, that changes things a lot. Right. Show Me Mo says, out of all the coaches brought into the SEC, Drink is the lowest paid. That's not true. He's not the lowest paid, but I think he means of the guys brought in the same year Eli was. All the others already have extensions and paid more. Mississippi State is better already. So I've had this talk with this discussion with a few people, and everybody's talked about how Missouri's schedule is really tough and this and that. Well, here's why I think Missouri's schedule is tough. Because if you go back to when Eli Drinkwitz was hired, which is 2019, Missouri was better than Arkansas. It was probably better than Tennessee. It was closer to Florida and Kentucky than it is today. It was better by a larger gap than South Carolina. So I just named 5 teams that are on Missouri's schedule every year. In the last 3 years, all 5 of those teams have gotten better. And Missouri is, I think, at best, stood still.
Plateau.
And there's your problem. Like, it's not just, you don't necessarily have to get worse for people to catch you, because while other people are getting better, if you're not getting better, I think there's like some motivational posters, right? Like, if you're standing still, somebody's gaining on you or something like that. Yeah. And that's that. Like, Missouri's better years in this league were when Tennessee was struggling, Florida was a little bit down, Kentucky wasn't what they are today, Arkansas was awful. Well, none of those things are true anymore, and there's your problem, man.
That doesn't sound good when you say it, because it sounds like they're only good when everybody else is floundering, and obviously Missouri fans want them to be able to compete even when others are, competing.
Right, which happens if you improve. I think I just don't think Missouri's improved much in the last 5 years. You think we see any changes in the offensive line this week or in the future? I mean, I don't know. Maybe Luke Griffin plays instead of Xavier Delgado, but does that make a big difference?
No. Putting Band-Aids over bullet wounds.
Right. Like, I don't think the solutions are necessarily on the roster. I think they're playing who they think are their best guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, and with Delgado, I told you the other day, like, if you probably have to rank them right now as far as best lineman to the one struggling, it'd probably be Foster, Delgado, Wood, maybe barely. The
Yeah, Wood
tallest,
or Powell would be third.
tallest. Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, Connor Tollison is a center and had 2 false starts at Kansas State.
He's
Like,
definitely fourth or fifth, but Zeke Powell was struggling. I feel like he was struggling versus La Tech a little bit, and that was just like, I don't know. Either one of them are fourth or fifth, and Connor Wood gets third by default.
yeah. So Todd Julian says, "What if Kansas State is great?" I mean, okay, but like, I don't know. Did you walk out of Manhattan thinking that's a college football playoff team or even a Big 12 champion?
I don't think that, but I do think they are much better. They may be much better than, no, not much better, but instead of going the 7-5, 8-4, a 9-3 wouldn't surprise me because
Right.
they should have put 60 up.
Yes. I think they are better than Missouri fans gave them credit for being going in. I think they're probably better than I gave them credit for going in. I do not think they should have beaten Missouri 40-6 still. Again, it's not that they lost, it's that they didn't look like they were on the same level.
Yeah, sometimes things like that is indicative of more so of what Missouri didn't do sometimes than, what K-State did.
Yeah. All right. So I feel like we've been leading up to this. This is where we got to end. If we finish with less wins this year, Drink should be on the hot seat, very hot seat. I mean, yeah, I think if they go 5-7, I think he's going to be coaching for his job next year. I just don't think he's coaching for his job at any point this year.
That's about right. But we said we were thinking 6-6, and it's crazy how the loss that we kind of expected them to have has got us thinking 5-7 now. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's, somebody asked me in the mailbag, what's your updated record? I said 5-7 because I think they win this weekend. They beat New Mexico State. I still think they beat Vandy, and I think they find one more, whether that's South Carolina or Auburn or whatever, or just who knows? Maybe they play Tennessee and play really well, and Tennessee plays poor. I think they'll find one more. I just don't trust them to find any more than one more.
Yeah, finding two. I mean, it's kind of hard to do this because we said Kansas State or Auburn, and that's 2 weeks away. But I think they lose Auburn. I think it's looking real 4-ish.
You think 4? All right. I'll still. My 5 is kind of counting on a loss at Auburn. I just think they find one somewhere. But it's weird to say in week 4 that they might face a must win. But I think they kind of face a must win in week 4. So we'll gear up to that one. Real quick, Jarod had a story on Logan Reichert this morning. We're gonna go over. Look, we gotta give Missouri some flowers here. We get to talk to Luther Burden and Brady Cook this afternoon in about 2 hours. We didn't really anticipate that happening, so good on them, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what those guys say.
I'm gonna say it's because I've been here the past month. They acted new. That's it.
There you go. So Jarod Hamilton fixing all the problems for you guys. I don't know, man. Any parting shots?
I will quickly. Let me briefly tell you about Abilene Christian real quick, just so you guys are not surprised. Typical spread offense: 11 personnel, 12 personnel. 11 personnel just means a running back and a tight end. 12 is a running back and 2 tight ends. Their quarterback is a gunslinger in the Brett Favre way, though. He can throw it over the top, but he will also throw up some interceptions. He had 3 interceptions last week before he led a comeback victory in the second half versus Prairie View. Their defense is, it's suspect. The whole team, Missouri should win by 50, but I'm just letting you guys know to give respect to Abilene Christian, and anything can happen on Saturday type of eyes, but that's what you guys should expect from them offensively, defensively. Missouri better put up points. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Hey, that's the only place you're going to get an Abilene Christian scouting report. Also, hey, they beat Texas in the NCAA tournament one year, so anything's possible this Saturday, right? So we will be there 11 a.m. This is your one warning, guys. It's on SEC Plus. You've got to stream it through the ESPN app or whatever. Figure it out. It's Wednesday. Sometime by Saturday at 11 a.m., you figure out how to work your TV. or your computer or wherever you need to watch it, so you're not tweeting us at 11 o'clock going, oh my God, where's the game? I've got it on ESPN and it's not on. So figure it out. That's your warning. You got more than 72 hours well, no, I lied. You got a little less than 72 hours, but I think you got time to figure it out. Sometime between now and then, also, you should get in touch with our friend James Carlton at James Carlton State Farm in St. Louis. The web address there, carltoninsurance.net. Phone number is 314-961-4800. Homeowners insurance, they do a lot of stuff with teen drivers. So if you've got a teenage driver, God knows that's stressful enough in your house, but James can take some of the stress off there. And look, he may or may not be able to save you money, but it's always worth taking a shot, right? Just don't trust that you're getting the best rate out there from your agent without checking around. And James is a Mizzou fan. He's a PowerMizzou guy. So give him the first shot at your business. carltoninsurance.net, 314-961-4800. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, James Carlton State Farm is where you need to go. Hey, this has already been a longer show than anticipated, and we've got people to go talk to. So appreciate you guys joining us. Look, we're all losers this week, but tomorrow's a new day, man. Wake up a winner on Thursday. Talk to you then.